Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, February 1st, 2019. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Claire's going to be with us in hour number 3 here. So let's just get cracking and right on into it here. Looking over at the war zones here, the U.S. Army has come out with its report analyzing the war in Iraq. And basically they've concluded that the only victor in the 8-year campaign against Saddam Hussein, to replace him with a puppet ruler, that the only one who actually won was Iran, because they smashed Iraq as a regional political power, and that left Iran virtually unchallenged except for Israel. So it's a case of unintended consequences and not thinking these things all the way through. But of course, as you know, there is this huge push. Oh, we've got to go after Iran now. We've got to go after Iran. They're doing bad things. They're building stink bombs in their basements and so forth, and trying to get that going here. So, but that's the U.S. Army's opinion here. Getting on down to Venezuela, things are still hot down there. Nicolas Maduro actually videoed a message to the American people with subtitles. It's on the front page of whatreallyhappened.com, basically saying that we need to basically tell our government we're not really interested in yet another war, and I don't think we really are. You know, he's basically appealing to the American people to try and stop this thing before it goes any further. Yesterday, there was that CNN story about these Venezuelan army defectors. And I pointed out on the show, the patches on the uniforms were wrong, and that therefore CNN was engaging in more fakery. And so now we have the story that's coming out of Russia Today, basically confirming the observation. They're saying these Venezuelan army defectors were not in the army. They were not defectors. They don't even live in Venezuela. They may be former Venezuelan military, but basically the patches on their uniforms were discontinued back in 2008. So these Venezuelan army defectors asking for U.S. weapons to overthrow Maduro, they're not who they say they are. And we probably shouldn't be giving them guns. But it's just more of CNN's fakery and hoax, and all the corporate media is on board. Oh yes, we've got to go into Venezuela now. We've got to go into Nicaragua. We've got to go into Cuba. It's about time we gave Cuba what for. It's been 60 years since the Bay of Pigs, and you know, by golly, you know, it's time for us to be avenged for our horrific defeat at the Bay of Pigs. And thus it goes. I mean, there's more and more talk about how Venezuela is just the beginning of a plan to remake Latin America, to kick out Russia and China, to turn South America back into a U.S. colony. Oh my goodness, it just goes on and on and on and on. Right now, the United States is mulling sanctions against Turkey over their trade with Venezuela. You know, it's starting to remind me of when Oprah Winfrey gave all those cars away on her show. You know, it's you get a sanction, and you get a sanction, and you get a sanction. And it really is getting rather silly. And again, all the countries that are being sanctioned, they're moving to find ways to evade the sanctions. They're moving away from the U.S. sphere of economic influence. And it's really, it's a bad, bad policy. And apparently U.S. officials are looking at whether Turkey's trade in Venezuelan gold represents a violation of sanctions imposed by the U.S. against Venezuela last November. So anyway, over in Italy, their deputy foreign minister is speaking out against what's going on in Venezuela. And apparently Italy does not recognize Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido as its interim president, saying that a Libya-style regime change must be avoided. And he added the kind of regime change that failed in Libya must not be attempted, as it turned out to be a mistake that everyone recognizes today, and it certainly was here. He says we must prevent this from happening in Venezuela. Yeah, it would be a good idea. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to know who's really in charge of things here in the United States of America. I mean, you've got all the intelligence agencies that are saying that Iran is not building nuclear weapons, that probably more military adventures are ill-advised at this time given our state of preparedness. And then you have Trump coming on out and say they need to go back to school. You know, who's got his ear? Who's the one pushing forward? John Bolton, probably more than anybody else. But John Bolton doesn't have to pay for these wars, and he doesn't have to fight them. All right, we're going to do a shout-out now to our honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, there's an interesting little video, and I'm using the word interesting very carefully. It's of an American F-15, and the video, and we've got it linked to whatreallyhappened.com. It shows the F-15 flying along, and then all of a sudden a Sukhoi 27 fighter basically shows up and banks into the F-15, forcing the F-15 to veer off. And it's a really cool video, but on the other hand, it's sort of showing how tense things are getting up there. And I don't think it was a good idea for the Russians to do that. It's just increasing the tensions to the point where somebody's going to pull a trigger. And things are really going to be, you know, getting tense, as it were, if you will. Apparently, over in the United Arab Emirates, they have an intelligence unit which was spying on dissidents. They've been recruiting American former spies to monitor their own citizens, and apparently they were asked to spy on U.S. citizens as part of an operation called Project Raven. And the story's been revealed by multiple Americans who were part of the operation who admitted to spying on enemies of the UAE monarchy, including journalists, activists, and foreign governments, but who only had qualms about what they were doing when they were asked to monitor fellow Americans. Well, at least they had the qualms at that point. I have to wonder what kind of a mindset it takes to be a snitch, to be a spook, to spy on people here. All right, turning over to Venezuela again here. People are starting to really look at Elliott Abrams. Donald Trump has picked him to supposedly bring democracy to Venezuela, but Abrams has spent his life crushing democracies. He did it in El Salvador. This is his pattern. He doesn't bring democracy. He brings dictatorship and puppet rule. And that's what they want to do to Venezuela, and apparently Nicaragua, and apparently Cuba. And I can't see them going in and doing all three of those nations. First of all, we really don't have the resources. Second of all, at some point, Russia and China and the rest of the world are going to say, okay, this has gone on far enough. We're not going to go back to a world that is ruled by the United States of America militarily. We're going to be in another war here. Over in Syria, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, formerly Jabhat al-Nusra, formerly blah, 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 formerly blah, 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 blah. They keep changing their name all over the place. They've blocked all the roads linking the Idlib de-escalation zone with the northern Aleppo countryside, including the Turkish-occupied area of Afrin. The two main blocked roads were Atme Dir Balut and Dir Saman al-Ghazawiya. Say that one 3 times fast. Therefore, the transportation of goods and other traffic are now under direct control of the group, which is charging funds for passage of its checkpoints. Now, the formal justification of the move is the alleged threat of ISIS infiltration, which Hayat Tahrir al-Sham seeks to prevent. On the other hand, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham move undermines the de-escalation zone agreement under which the sides agreed to work to reopen the roads between Hama and Aleppo and Latakia and Aleppo. So things are still kind of serious over there. All right. The Senate yesterday voted 68 to 23 to pass a resolution from Majority Leader Mitch McConnell expressing opposition to President Trump's plan to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria, describing it as basically precipitous, and also the plan to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, and says withdrawing the troops poses a serious risk. Now, this is a non-binding vote. This is simply expressing the sentiment of the Congress. Of course, it wouldn't be a law without Trump's signature. He's not going to sign this one here. But apparently, the non-binding resolution was passed with overwhelming support from the Republican majority, setting them squarely against parts of President Trump's foreign policy. Now, a number of Democrats who voted against it expressed concern that it was tantamount to a vote advocating a state of permanent war, which, yeah, look how long we've been in Afghanistan, 18 years. Look how long we've been in Iraq, 15 years. Remember the project for the New American Century back in the 1990s, they were advocating for 100 years of war to bring the world under the control of the United States. In Afghanistan, we're almost 1/5 of the way there. It's pretty scary here. Now, Rand Paul has come on out saying that this calling a withdrawal from Afghanistan and Syria precipitous is ludicrous. And he said it was ludicrous for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to call taking troops out of Syria and Afghanistan precipitous. He said after 17 years, we've been there for 17 years, going on 18. So Rand Paul said the U.S. had secured a victory in Afghanistan because it got bin Laden. Actually, Rand, no, we didn't. The real bin Laden died of natural causes in late 2001. He said it disrupted the people who attacked us. Well, again, Afghanistan didn't attack us. I mean, right after 9/11, Afghanistan got the blame for 9/11. Then it got shifted over into Iraq. And no doubt they're going to start saying that Iran had something to do with it as they build a case for a war there. But basically, Rand Paul made a good point. He said the money being spent on the war could be better spent domestically, including on a border wall. And he's absolutely right about that. If you think about all the money that has been spent in Afghanistan and Syria and Iraq, and what good it could have done here in this country. And as I've said before, we're in a wartime economy. Nobody wants to admit it, but that's where we are. You know, all the wealth is being sucked out of this country. It's going to the war machine. It's going to Israel. It's going to the money junkies. There's nothing left over for the American people, and that's why our roads are crumbling, our bridges are failing, our dams are in danger of collapsing. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this. When you drive around your town, your village, and just look at the condition of everything, you can see how deteriorated and dilapidated it's all become. That's because all the money is going to bombs, bullets, and butter. Alrighty, Donald Trump could conceivably start moving nuclear missiles to Europe for the first time in 30 years this weekend. Now, the U.S. is threatening to pull out of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. It is claiming that Russia is in violation. Russia says, no, they're not in violation. Come and look at the rocket. You know, we'll show you what we've got here. It's well within the treaty limits. But the U.S. is threatening to pull out of the treaty, which bans the long-range nuclear missiles and their deployment in Europe. And they're saying Trump has broken the 1987 agreement. Trump is also saying that the NATO allies are fully supporting the U.S. suspending the obligations under the INF. Oh, yes, NATO wants more nuclear missiles in Europe because, all those launching sites, they become targets in an actual nuclear exchange. Oh, yes, let's put up a nuclear missile here, right in the middle of town. Won't that be a really good thing? All right, let's take a phone call from Charles in St. Petersburg. Aloha, Charles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Is this Michael?
It should be. I'm wearing his underwear.
Oh, yeah. You don't sound the same on my phone as you do on radio. I didn't know if you had a guest host. Yeah, I just saw some article in the recent the truthseeker.co.uk from the Veterans Today, an article on this fellow Guaido, who's supposed to be the replacement to the head of Venezuela,
Maduro, yes.
Yeah, Maduro, yeah. It's an interesting thing. It was in Veterans Today that they're going deeper into, the forces behind, who Guaido is. They have a picture of him in a Masonic lodge, and there was the author. I don't know who the author was, but it's saying this is probably a infighting between the Jesuits and Freemasonry.
No. This is right from the United States of America. I mean, they basically come on out and said they want to remake Latin America, and they're starting with Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba. And they're looking at this Guaido. He's apparently been groomed. Some sources are saying he wasn't even born in Venezuela. So yeah, he's an outside actor.
Well, they were saying, or this in this article, that Guaido represents the old aristocracy, whereas what's his name? I can't think of his name. You were just saying his name in Venezuela. It represents the poor, wealthy, that have come into power.
Okay.
Let's see the fellows. I'm sorry, and that it's the ins against the outs. I mean,
well, all revolution is the outs against the
families.
ins.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I recognize the United. This is more warmongering. The part of it, it's complete 180 of what Trump was originally talking about, pulling out of NATO, getting out of Europe, getting out of all these. Now he's become the biggest warmonger you could ever imagine. I was for Trump to begin with, the Trump that was running for president, but now he's done a 180, and I totally agree with what you're saying there. About the United States has no business, telling another country what government it can have. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of players involved here. As I've said many times before, wars, assassinations, revolutions, they never happen for just one reason. They happen when you have a group which have their own agendas, but all of their agendas are solved by the same action. And
have you seen the thing by the Corbett Report about World War I? It was 3 videos they put out recently in the last month.
No,
Corbett
I
Report,
didn't.
I
But
don't know
Charles, listen, Charles, I'm going to have to put you on hold. Got to put you on hold. We got to take a break for commercials. Don't hang up. I want to come back to you and hear about World War I.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're still talking with Charles in St. Petersburg, and he mentioned the Corbett Report came out with something about World War I.
Yeah, how it came about, how the people, the Triple Entente was the alliance of before World War I of Britain with with France and Russia. And I was not aware of this, but the people during the First World War, except for the elite in the Round Table, the Rhodes Milner secret group, knew nothing about the Triple Alliance. Lloyd George, who was later Prime Minister of England during the First World War, and Parliament knew nothing about it. And this was already entered into secretly before the First World War. So Germany was trapped. The Kaiser was just fooled. He was thought, according to propaganda, as being a militarist. But look who's talking. The United States or England or France. Were a real militarist power. Germany had only been a nation since 1871. And
well,
here's a secret. I was unaware of this. Is a secret treaty that was already entered into before the First World War, got started.
The agenda was to destroy Germany as an economic competitor for Great Britain, because if you remember, World War I actually began between Serbia and Austria-Hungary following the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, and somehow the corporate media convinced all Americans that Germany was all of a sudden the enemy.
The Kaiser was always portrayed as with a helmet on and a wicked militarist, and in Hollywood we had the Max Stroheim character.
Yeah,
there's always and Germany was. Germany and the United States after 1870 were the enemies of England, because they were just taking all their business away from them. England had to do something. What England did is bring the United States ruling class into a partnership. They were kind of in a partnership anyway with the opium cartel, but bring them into the empire, and then set a trap for the Kaiser, who was kind of a chump, really. I think of him as a chump, a fool.
Well, he got suckered in. There's no question about that. And the U.S. was brought on in with that deception involving the Lusitania, and then they absolutely crushed Germany. They forced Germany to pay off the war debts of all the participating countries. And Germany just suffered under economic hardship until the rise of the Nazi Party, which kicked out the private central bank imposed by the Treaty of Versailles, established a value-based currency, and Germany's economy lit up like a Christmas tree. And that's why Hitler got to be Time Magazine's Man of the Year. I think it was in 1933 for what was called the German miracle, the German economic miracle. And all of a sudden, Germany was this powerhouse of manufacturing and industry. And once again, they were a threat to Great Britain. And Winston Churchill, he wasn't quite prime minister yet, but he was all over the radio saying, if Germany's allowed to continue to merchandise across Europe, then we fought World War I in vain. And so that was a big reason for World War II. Was, again, it's easier to declare war on a business competitor and smash them down than to try and improve your own manufacturing and industry.
Did you know that in 1939, September 1939, Germany went into Poland after they had tax on German. A lot of German citizens were under Czech, Polish, or Romanian rule because of the Versailles Treaty in 1919. Mm-hmm. But guess who? France and England declared war on Germany, but the USSR occupied half of Poland. No such thing happened to them.
Nope.
It's never explained.
Nope.
I think there was a secret treaty, just like they had in the First World War.
No, they just all got together and said, we're going to crush Germany because we can't compete with its industrial base. The Germans are just legendary for making good products, making good machinery, making good cars, and the other countries just simply could not compete.
Well, biochemistry was almost alone. Many things and discoveries in the 19th century were German in the 20th century.
Yeah.
In chemistry.
No, they were leading scientists. I mean, some of the most brilliant minds of that age were coming out of Germany. People like Einstein. They had this amazing education system that was, driving students and pushing them to excel, and was producing these, these wonderful minds. Anyway, Charles, got to let you go. Got to take another break for commercials. Back with more news after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Article out of Russia Today, basically pointing out that John Bolton is basically committed to punishing anyone who resists the writ of Washington. Now, the question is, where's this writ coming from? Because I'm not sure it's coming from Trump. I think it's coming from Bolton. I think basically, Bolton has come on in and told Donald Trump, I will run the foreign policy, I'll run the war agenda. And he's just running all over the globe here. And I think he's leading us into disaster. I mean, after 17, going on 18 years of war in multiple countries, we're running out of material. Military recruitment is not meeting its goals. The machinery is wearing out. The new products coming out of the military-industrial complex are crap. Let's call it what it is. If we get into a major scrap with a military peer, I mean, we're doing okay against these little tiny Middle Eastern countries that can't really defend themselves. We do okay. Against a military peer like Russia and China, I think we're going to lose. John Bolton never met a war he didn't really like. Over in France, the government has taken a very hard line against the Yellow Vests, and it has caused a bit of controversy. And apparently, France's legal advisory body, the Council of State, is examining an urgent request by the French Human Rights League and the CGT trade union to ban police from using a form of rubber bullet launcher in which ball-shaped projectiles are shot out of a specialized handheld launcher. And they're also petitioning the government to ban so-called sting ball grenades. Now, these are little launched munitions that contain 25 grams of TNT, trinitrotoluene high explosive. France is the only European country where crowd control police are allowed to use these powerful grenades, which deliver an explosion of small rubber balls that creates a stinging effect, as well as launching an additional load of tear gas. Now, these grenades are very loud and they can blind people. French members of parliament are condemning the authoritarian plans to curtail the Yellow Vest protest. And apparently they've approved measures to ban what the government calls brute troublemakers from street demonstrations as the Yellow Vests enter their 12th week. And there were a lot of debates, heated exchanges about that. But a lot of members of parliament said the measures posed an authoritarian threat to civil liberties. So there's a little bit of a pushback against all of this. Emmanuel Macron apparently is trying to find some way to win the sympathies of the Yellow Vests. Now, you need to understand, Macron, he's a multimillionaire. He earned millions as an investment banker. And he tends to make speeches to the poorest French citizens from rooms that are just dripping with gold. Doesn't send a good message. But he's changing tactics on out there. And in an interview with French media, he said, if being a Yellow Vest means wanting fewer parliamentarians and work being paid better, I'm a Yellow Vest too.